G'day guys, welcome to another layout. Now this one it's currently in real time, but it only lasts for like a minute in this and then it will speed up for you. I wanted to do a black and white layout. Just purely and simply because sometimes I'm not feeling all the bright colours, so I decided to go with black and white. Now I've pulled out a 6x6 paper pad and it's a Smash brand scrapbook paper pad, and I've got it in the 12x12 and I've also got it in the 6x6. Why? Because the 6x6 is a miniature version of the same patterns. So I have decided that I'm going to pull out an A4 piece of cardstock and I'm going to create myself a white area. I'm just lining it up with my grid mat there just to make sure that it's going to be nice and even. And then I'm just going to go to town and tear out a heap of different patterns that I could make work. Now, I didn't go for any of the really big, thick, bold patterns, bold stripes, because sometimes they can be a bit overwhelming on a layout if, you know, sometimes it takes a bit much, like it's a bit full on in your face. So I decided that do I want to rough them up? Do I want to keep them flat? And I pulled out my Creative Memories personal trimmer, and I love this tool. I don't use it nearly as much whilst I'm videoing, but when I'm not videoing, I actually use it more than you think. So I am just going through and cutting random thicknesses of these cardstocks, and I'm going to just use strips because that's something that basically, look, I get an idea in my head, and until I get that idea out of my head, it's like it keeps popping up in other videos until I actually do the routine. I don't know why that is. It's so incredibly frustrating. Does anyone else have that? Does anyone else have the situation where they've got so many ideas that sometimes they just have to move one idea out of the way to get to another idea? I know I sound complicated, don't I? My brain sometimes. I wonder why my kid has ADHD. Gee whiz. But anyway, moving right along. So here I am. I've got the black background, and then I've just added the white to it, and I've separated it again. So now I have to line it back up again. And I'm just going through and I'm just adding these strips. Now this layout actually comes together super duper quick. Now these photos are photos from years ago, probably about, I don't know, 6 years ago, 7, something like that, 6 years ago. And I got this haircut, and I have to tell you, it was the color, the cuts, everything that I loved was all in this haircut. I loved it. So I wanted to scrap it because it's my favorite haircut that I think I've ever had. Now, it's just too expensive to maintain. Anyway, in my local area. Now, I am going to town with Distress Oxides and some basic stamps. I'm using just these tiny stamps. Don't ever discard the fact that a $4 stamp could be really, really useful, because that's all I'm using here. All of these stamps were nice and cheap. So the grid ones, they're from Uniquely Creative. This square one is from Uniquely Creative. That ink that I use there is actually a pigment ink, and I don't know what brand it is, but I bought it years and years and years ago, and it's still super juicy. But I do lock in, I think I come in here now with some, yeah, I do, with some clear embossing powder, because that white, for some reason, I know it's a pigment ink and it's supposed to stay wetter for longer, but whee, it stays wet for a really, really good long amount of time. Also, adding the clear embossing powder adds a nice shimmer, and it's not in your face, but on certain angles you can catch it, and it's really good. Now, don't mind me just wiping over my mat. I hate the grit that is left over from embossing powders. Now, before you come at me, yes, I have a box that I do my embossing powders in, yes, but to be honest with you, it's more of a pain in the neck than it is to grab a microfiber cloth and just wipe your desk down. Just saying. Sometimes when I'm in the moment, I don't want to pull out a heap of stuff to do one simple process. That's just me. It's not that I'm lazy, it's that I like to hit the ground running. I like everything to be go, go, go when I figure it out. Now, you can see here, I'm coming in with different patterns next to each other. You can see what I'm trying to build up here. I've got the stamping in the background, so a little bit of, I wouldn't call it mixed media. I'd call it a dry mixed media, where you've got the stamping to create a bit of difference in the background. Now I'm coming in with the colors. You could do this in rainbow colors. You could do this with, for those that did my classes earlier this year, some of those paper pads would work really well with this. The, let me think, the Happy Days, Cocoa Vanilla Happy Days papers, this would look stunning doing it like that with all the bright colors. I just wanted to keep it so that my photos stood out. That's why I wanted to keep it black and white. And I feel like black and white is timeless. And that's how I wish this hairstyle was on me. I wish it was still on my head. I love it. I had it all blonde on top. Like, I had blonde foils through the top, but I had a really dark plum color underneath. And having it shorter, oh, it was so easy to look after. My hair now is longer. It's down to my elbows probably, and it pretty much resides in a messy bun on top of my head. If you're a mum, you get it. I know you get it. So it just is what it is. Sometimes I'm one of these people, I would rather spend my money on my kids than spend, this hairstyle cost me $300 back then. Crazy. Crazy. I realize hairdressers are worth their weight in gold, but I just can't maintain that. It's just too much. Now, I went through and I stitched all these rows down. I did it for two reasons. One, to stitch it down, but two, I went through and I wanted to add more texture in the background. And I just went through with a zigzag stitch across all of them, and it looks so cool. Now I'm coming in with some black and some white just to add some splatters to tie it together a little bit more. And I'm loving how this is turning out, guys. Absolutely loved it. And the best part is this bit. I finally managed to come up with a title that uses quite a few of these letters. Now, these letters, I gotta say, they're my nemesis. I love them, but I hate them because there's just not enough of the big swirly letters, and there's not enough of the little lowercase, not so swirly letters. So to find a decent sentence where I had enough letters, it was, but it's okay. I managed to get another good layout out of this one. So a nice, good, long title. I did have to play around and mess around with letters, and I was going to go for style, and then style wasn't going to work. So then I went with do, new hairdo, and I managed to do it. I had to MacGyver a couple of letters, but it's okay. Now, years gone by, I would never have MacGyvered letters. It just would never have worked in my little head. But these days, I find I would rather MacGyver some letters and be able to use up more letters than have them be wasted and go in the bin. So this is, you can see there, the word the. I had to MacGyver an E, but that's okay. It works. Don't stress. And the R, I had to MacGyver an R as well, because the big swirly one just looked silly. Didn't look right. So, I mean, it looks gorgeous as a letter. It looks fantastic, but it didn't work in my sentence. So, yeah. So this layout is coming together, guys. I'm loving it. I do go to town with lots of bling on here in a minute. And I got to tell you, it was probably my favorite layout for the week that I kind of try and keep my layouts in the week and then move on to the next week. And that's how I try and do it. And I got to say, this was probably my favorite layout for the week. It just popped. I loved it. I probably should have moved hair down a hair. Did you like my joke? Come on, work with me. Leave me a comment below. Do you have any photos of your favorite hairstyle? Whether you're at the hairdresser, whether you've taken it when you got home or whatever. Is there one that sticks out to you that you wish you still had? Because, you know, or the opposite to that, you might want to scrapbook a really bad haircut that your parents gave you, or your mum or your dad gave you when you were younger. Because I know I've got a few fringes. I didn't have a fringe at all until I think I was grade 5, maybe grade 6. And I don't even know why it was an idea, but yeah, it was a bad idea. It was a bad one. So I'm going through now and I'm adding some crystal drops. I love these things. I've got a couple of packets of them. I get them from AliExpress and they are crystal clear drops and they are just beautiful. They just catch the light perfectly. They're completely clear, so they work really, really well. So now what have I got now? Let me see. So I'm doing that, and then I'm just making sure that I've told you everything that I've used. So the Distress Oxide inks that I used were Black Soot, Hickory Smoke. Then I used a white pigment ink, and I used the VERSAFINE ONYX black ink to get, you know, obviously on the white and on the black. And I used my crystals, the stamps that I used a grid stamp from Uniquely Creative. I used mixed squares, which is a new one to me. I also used the PRIMA stamp, which is Old Receipt. I will have all this listed below, guys. Don't worry about having to write it all down. I will have that done and dusted, and that's it. That's the whole lot. And clear embossing powder, which I was just using up the last of, I think it's Crafter's Choice that I've got there. Yeah, so that works a treat. And I'm just putting all these little puppies down, and can you see how those sprinkly shiny bits, I feel like they pull the layout together. And now I'm going through, this is with the NUVO crystal drops. The reason I'm using these is because I don't really, when it comes to putting a drop on a page, I prefer the consistency of Liquid Pearls by Ranger. That's just me. That's my thing. I also like I find that they sit and keep their shape better than the NUVO drops. That's just me, and I'm in a hot, humid climate, so that's just how it works for me. I did buy these NUVO crystal drops, and they flatten out too much for me. They are shiny as, it stays so glossy, and I love that. I just wish it was a slightly thicker consistency. Now, I did come in with some white liquid pearls. This is white opal, and it is coming together beautifully. I'm loving it, and just adding a little bit of extra shimmer and shine here and there, and it pulls your layout together, guys. You'd be really surprised. If you don't have many of these in stock, something else that I've been playing with lately is putting paint into your fine liner bottles, your little cheap ones that I get from Crafts Online, and thicker paint, not a poster paint, a thicker paint works beautifully. It does the same job. So that's just a cheaper alternative that you can do for yourself. Now, what else was I going to... I think that was about it, actually. I think we're just about up to zooming in and checking out the pics. So I'm now going to do my shameless plug. Please, by all means, please, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you jump on board. And I would love to have you share my channel with your friends, maybe in a group if you have a group of friends. I would also love it if you like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I love reading my comments. They make my day. I know time at the moment is super busy because of Christmas coming up and Thanksgiving overseas, all that sort of stuff. But I'm always here, and I'm always here for chitty chats, and I love reading all your comments. Check out all that goodness up close. I love it. All that sparkle is from those clear gems that I added that, like I said, I get from AliExpress. So, and they're not super expensive. I think they were like $3, $4. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget all the good stuff, and I will chat to you. Oh, and the other thing is I also have a buy me a coffee. Yeah, I promote myself well, don't I? Buy me a coffee link in the description as well if you'd like to support the channel. Bye for now, guys.